The word science comes from the Latin root scientia, meaning knowledge. But where does the knowledge that makes up science come from? How do you ever really know that something is true? For instance, modern science tells us that some types of disease spread through tiny organisms. Medieval people believed instead that sickness arose from an imbalance of the body's four humors. How do we know with certainty that modern science is correct? Microscopes enable us to see the germs that cause sickness, but when we look through microscopic lenses to examine microbes, how do we know our understanding of what they are and what they are doing is true? Of course, medieval philosophers did not have microscopic lenses. But if they did, they were likely would have disagreed with our modern understanding of disease. Believing in the inaccuracy of the human senses and moreover of the human mind's inability to correctly judge anything, medieval knowledge instead privileged ancient texts as the best way of making sense of the world. In 1620, around the time that people first began to look through microscopes, an English philosopher, Sir Francis Bacon, who was one of the leading figures in natural philosophy, developed a method for philosophers to use in weighing the truthfulness of knowledge. While Bacon agreed with medieval thinkers that humans too often err in interpreting what their five senses perceived, he also realized that people's sensory experience provided the best possible means of making sense of the world. Because humans could incorrectly interpret anything they saw, heard, smelled, tasted, or felt, Bacon insisted that they must doubt everything before assuming its truth. That is why he was proponent of inductive method. Induction is making a general rule from a set of observation, whereas deduction is predicting observation based on a general rule. As a lawyer, member of parliament and Queen's Counsel, Bacon wrote on questions of law, state and religion, as well as on contemporary politics. But he also published texts in which he speculated on possible conception of society. And he pondered questions of ethics even in his work on natural philosophy, that is, the advancement of learning. According to Francis Bacon, why are we using science incorrectly? Well, we would be using science incorrectly according to Bacon if we proceed to depend on our senses to make observation without tempering them with doubt, which could lead to poor observations used to make poor conclusions. In order to test potential truths or hypotheses, Bacon devised a method whereby scientists set up experiments to manipulate nature and attempt to prove their hypothesis wrong. For example, in order to test the idea that sickness came from external causes, Bacon argued that scientists should expose healthy people to outside influences such as coldness, wetness, or other sick people to discover if any of these external variables resulted in more people getting sick. Knowing that many different causes for sickness might be missed by humans who are unable or unwilling to perceive them, Bacon insisted that these experiments must be consistently repeated before truth could be known. A scientist must show that patients exposed to a specific variable more frequently got sick again and again. Although modern scientists have revised many of the truths adopted by Bacon and his contemporaries, we still utilize Bacon's 1620 method of proving knowledge to be true via doubt and experimentation. Bacon's philosophical work marks a very significant breakthrough for the study of the world around us. But it is important to stress that this method of investigation was not conceived in a vacuum. Rather, Bacon's work should be seen as a part of a widespread cultural revolution accelerated by the rise of the printing press in the 15th century. Artisans and craftspeople soon began engaging in the new natural philosophy, exemplifying the fact that a monumental shift in what constituted evidence for truth was underway. Not only did Renaissance artisans create lenses to see, tools to measure, and artwork to replicate the natural world, but by the 16th century, they began to publish philosophical treatises asserting that through the imitation and reproduction of nature in their arts, they were able to achieve a state of direct engagement with nature. Rather than taking knowledge from ancient sources, they argued that true knowledge came from direct experience. Alchemists likewise prioritized direct engagement in using fire to divide elements into their smallest components and discovering that there were more than 4 of them. Alchemists promoted the revolutionary idea that observation of nature itself rather than reliance on an ancient authorities provided the best foundation for knowledge. These new ideas crystallized with the work of Francis Bacon. In his work as a politician, he called for the development of an institution that would promote and regulate the acquisition of knowledge derived from observation. After considerable delay caused by the Civil War and the execution of King Charles I, the Royal Society for Improving Natural Knowledge was founded in 1660. Once Bacon's philosophies regarding experimentations and observation came to be accepted, people began using them to harness nature for profit. The study of nature came to be less about changing traditional attitudes and beliefs and more about stimulating the economy. By the end of the following century, the scientific revolution had given birth to an industrial revolution that dramatically transformed the daily lives of people around the world. Western society has been moving forward on Bacon's model for the past 300 years. Perhaps, though, we are in danger of forgetting the vital role doubt played in Bacon's philosophy. Even with powerful microscopes, there is still a lot that human senses miss.